Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Alrighty, let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
All
Um,
right, one
does this
second.
allow me to, am I allowed to swap my source of camera?
Um,
What's
it
it want?
should be able to.
Okay. I'm gonna do that really quick. It's just my phone.
Okay.
Um, Okay, can you hear me? Oh, might be now my headphones are being weird. Okay, can you hear me now? Let's see. If you can hear me, I can't hear you, so I'm not sure if you're muted. No. Um, I can't hear you for some reason. I'm not sure if you're muted.
I I am muted. I'm unmuted. Here we go. Much better. Can you hear me now? Let me see. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Um, is
That
it
is.
me?
Is
Okay.
it
No, my
me?
connected. Is it a volume thing?
Is it probably the volume thing? Yeah.
Well, that's something. But then now it put the volume to my computer instead of my headphones.
Yeah. Hey, Joe. Israel. Hey, Tanya. There is an echo though. Is it from
Yeah,
me?
so when I checked to see if it was the volume and then it disconnected
Hmm.
my headphones. So let me just try and
Gotcha.
and
Um,
then maybe.
I think I have the echo control on. So if the headphones is having issues, how about now? Let me hear that. Oh, I still kind of hear echo.
That's so weird. Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay, hold on.
echo is
Let's try
coming
again.
from the guest. Okay.
It's definitely me. Okay, say
All right.
words. Yay, we're
Words.
back.
We're back. We're good. We're live.
Okay,
Hey
let's see.
guys, welcome. We have no technical issues, right? We're good. We're clear. We're fantastic. All right. So we're good to go. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I have a wonderful, talented, uh, beautiful guest, Neysa. Did I say the name right? Because I was trying to remember.
Yes,
I was like, is it Neysa? Because last time I had Yesenia, and then I have Neysa, and I was like, it's a lot of S's in there. But
I
thank you so
know.
much
It's a
for.
lot of like.
Yeah, it's beautiful though. I love it. Um, so where are you joining us today? Like, where are you calling in from? Where are you coming from? Where are you right now? Cali, right?
Yeah, so I'm calling from Venice, and this is my lovely home, and I'm excited to be here. It's sunny, it's
Yeah.
warm. Yeah.
Well, it's raining here in South Florida. I'll tell you that. So that blows. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I gravitated towards you. I met you at the Empowered to Podcast conference earlier this year, and you're also a podcaster. And we sat at the table and we had lunch, and you just had so much knowledge and experience to share about mindset in regards to finances, money, creating. Um, Money's always a weird, uncomfortable conversation. As a creator, you kind of feel funny. And talking to you for the brief period that I did, it just felt natural. So, can you tell us a little bit about you, your history, and all that?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So, I am a money mindset coach and I work with service providers to help them make more sales through healing their relationship with money. So, as you said, like money is typically a very uncomfortable topic for people, and especially folks who love what they do. They tend to have an even more complicated relationship with money because I think in society we're taught to divorce love from money. Oh, I think I lost
Oh,
you.
oh no, no, I'm still here. I kind of made it
You're
full
still here.
screen.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, he's gone.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we're taught to divorce ourselves from money if we love something or if we love ourselves or the people that we help. But the truth about money is that energetically, it's very parallel to love because they both provide us a sense of security and belonging. And so, actually, the more love that you're experiencing, and I don't mean romantic love, I don't mean necessarily friendship, any kind of love, even self love, even passion for the work that you do, the more that you cultivate that, the more you cultivate money. Usually the two go hand in hand. And when you're experiencing success in one area, the other is closely following, or maybe you're experiencing a rock bottom in the other area, which is just the universe's way of clearing way for you to have success in that area. So that's just a little bit of the principles that I talk about. And I apply this to small business owners because small businesses create so much change, so much impact. They're amazing for the economy. It's our way of living our lives to the way that we're designed for them to be. It gives you independence, it gives you freedom. And we're all looking for that. And so I think one of the most empowering things you can do for people is help them heal their relationship with money, because ultimately it's just a self love journey. And, maybe Eat, Pray, Love didn't hit for you. And I think the conversation about money can be your Eat, Pray, Love. So that's a little bit about what I do.
Now, now I want to talk about Eat, Pray, Love. I had no idea it was about money. That I now I want to see it.
It's not really about money. It's more of like a self love, self discovery journey. And I think some people it really resonated with it, and some people were like stuck thinking, well, that's for people who have money. Like one of the
Yeah.
most common
Okay.
things with money mindset is it's for them and it's not for me. And I
Hmm.
can't wait to dive into that later. But that's like the one of the bigger like beliefs that people have of like it's just not for me. And I have a million reasons as to why the opposite is true.
Yeah. So as a creator, where does the creativity come in money? Because it's very ugly. It's very a concrete thing. Whereas creativity is more of a fluid thing. It's more so like multiple ways to go around it, multiple ways to create. Whereas money is you need this concrete thing to do this concrete thing to do maybe the fluidity. So where do you find the creativity and money?
So, first, money is not a concrete thing. Money is really similar to the energy of creativity because it is fluid, it does flow, and it's infinite. And so the energy of creativity is infinite, and all you're really doing is channeling. So we're getting woo woo here. So,
I felt it.
you know, right? So creativity and ideas are how we express ourselves as like spiritual beings. We're all spiritual beings. And creativity is a very godlike activity that we do. It's the most spiritual thing you can do is to create. Ideas are just channeled through us. So you might have experienced something where you had an idea and you didn't act on it and you just held it inside. Maybe you told a couple people, maybe you didn't tell anybody. And then, like, randomly, you found out somewhere else that idea was born through someone else. Like,
Happens all the time.
right? Or like, my husband was just telling me that he had this particular line that he wrote down and it was a very specific phrase and he never like published it, never created anything from it. Years later, Kendrick Lamar had that exact phrase in a rap song,
Yeah, it
right? So
happens.
like literally ideas just want to be born, and if you're not going to birth it, it will find someone else who will, like, because the energy of creativity is infinite. So money is similarly that way. We're just stewards of it, right? We're letting it flow in, we're letting it flow out, but it's got to move. It can't stay stagnant. It's got to move. And what we are trying to do is cultivate a relationship with it, just the way that you have to cultivate a relationship with your creativity. So that means that there are a series of practices that you might do to receive downloads or insights or ideas, to nurture your mind and nurture your body so that you can create whatever that
Mhm.
involves. And it's the same thing with money. Like there's things that you need to do to get your mind and your body right so that you can create. And with money, there just has to be this intention of your ability to receive it, the way that when you're creating whatever it is that you're doing, that there's an intention behind what you're going to do with what you've created. And so I think by seeing money as like a brick and this heavy, dense thing that you have to carry around, that lets me know that that's not the energy of money. That's the energy of a belief about money that doesn't serve you if that's what it feels like.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. Even the word unpack. I've been trying to change it. I've been trying to say unravel or
Yeah.
unfold, because packing is like it's enclosed in a box, kept in a secret. That's what my brain envisions when I hear unpack. Um, but what I heard was the idea that how I and many other people throw onto money, it's very nasty and we don't want to deal with it. And I do have a system and process in which I like to create when I'm editing photos, if I'm doing a big production shoot or big podcast. I don't necessarily like to jump into the editing right then and there. I like to lubricate the gears or the joints by drawing, by writing, by doing something creative first, just to get me warmed up. That's like my warm up, and then can jump into this creative endeavor. You literally just said I can quite literally do the same exact system and process in a way in regards to money, because it is in fact a creative workflow. It is money is not concrete as I thought. So I like that. I if I don't take anything from today's discussion, this is what you just said literally just like, whoa. All right, Gil, you've been doing it wrong the whole time. I like
And
that.
it's not necessarily about, I don't assign things like right or wrong or good or bad. And that is something that doesn't serve us. What I love about this process and why I call it a self love journey is all you're doing is honoring who you really are. All you're doing is getting back to what is natural and authentic for you. So, something I talk about a lot is this idea of a money ritual and something that you do daily, weekly, monthly, whatever the cadence that feels right, that is very satisfying for you. So, this is actually a perfect example of what your money ritual could look like. You could once a month draw out on a piece of paper, like on sketch paper, your vision for the month as it relates to money, or draw out where you want your money to flow through for the month. And that could get you warmed up, like you say, to go and look at your expenses because now it's in a whole new reframe. It's like it's your creative process, right? I wouldn't necessarily create a course on mapping out your money flow, right? I would say that to someone like you who has told me, I do this to get ready for this process and it works great for me. I'd be like, okay, great, let's borrow that and do the same thing for money. Then that's your way of getting back to who you are authentically. It's not about following a plan that someone else has defined, it's about honoring yourself and cultivating your own relationship with money just the way that you would with any other person. Like your relationship with your spouse is going to be different than if me and her were friends, right? Or her and her other friends, or her and her mom. Like every relationship is different. And so your relationship with money is going to be very unique to you. And that would be like the perfect starting place to make it feel like it's personal and specific for you.
Wow, that I love that. Um, this is also a live stream, so I want the people on the live stream to send questions if you have any questions to Nisa or me, and we'd be able to answer them throughout the entire live stream. So you also run a production company. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so my husband and I co operate Ginger and Carrot Productions. And the main premise behind the work that we do is storytelling. We're really, really big on telling interesting stories, having things that have a narrative. And so we've done mini documentaries, we've done brand videos, we've even done photography for small business owners as well, so that they can tell their story and sell their services. And we recently started adding on things like brand identity, things like podcast editing to expand what that story could look like. And that's been our main focus. So we bring a lot of color, we bring a lot of energy. We are really big on leveraging your authenticity and integrating it into your values as a brand and as a company. And we've been doing that for just at 3 years, like literally, we just passed our 3 year milestone, which has been really amazing. And that is our creative channel. And it's so interesting to put our brains together for that, because the work that we produce together is so different than the work that I produce on my own or when Tabari goes on his own. So it really is like a brainchild that we have that we've been nurturing, and I'm really excited to see where it goes and where it takes us.
I love that, two creatives coming together and creating together. Are there any overlaps in Tabari's creative experiences and yours? Because you are a photographer, filmmaker, creative director, a money mindset coach, and Tabari is, I believe, a video director, if I'm mistaken, right?
Yeah,
So what are the
Tabari
what are the?
does.
Oh, you go ahead.
Oh no, Tabari does our videography and then everything post production, and he handles a lot of our audio and sound when we're on set. And then I do a lot of creative direction and narrative building and client relations on the back end of the business.
Okay.
Where things overlap is we do both take great photos. We're both really great photographers. And so we always have to set our intention on set to be like, who is doing that and who's going to be like directing and managing the client,
Yeah.
keeping everything moving on schedule. So we often have to like give ourselves a job for that day so that we're not trying to do the same thing. But our style is so different. Like Tabari tends to be moodier. He would love to film all black and white if left to his own devices. He can watch horror films. Like he's very much so informs his style. My style is very close up, like on your
Yeah.
eyeball, like very bright, very saturated. And so it's really cool to like bring those two things together.
I love that. One thing that I love also is your podcast, and your most recent podcast episode was talking about manifestation and just the idea of how to do it for real. Can you give us a little bit of an inside scoop about that? And what do you mean by like manifesting for real? For real?
Yeah, so I'm so excited that you asked about that because there's so much conversation about manifestation, and people are giving out tactics and tricks. And one thing about me, I hate tricks. I'm like, can't do it. Give me the real. And I have been on this like spiritual self discovery journey for a couple of years now. And I've been getting into the energy work. And I was like, if I were to synthesize what I'm doing, could I do that? And I was like, no, I can't synthesize it. And nor should it be. And I kind of kept that to myself for a while. And I was listening to a friend of mine. She has a podcast and she talks about people who are kind of scamming in our industry and like what that looks like. And she brought on a really great coach who does talk about manifestation. And that conversation validated so much of what I felt, and I've done my own work through a membership called To Be Magnetic, and they have a very specific process as well. And I thought about this, and my friends and I, and this is so key to this answer. My friends and I went to the beach together, and it was like a girls' day. And of course, we're all spiritual. So we're in the car, like, what is the meaning of life? Like, like on the way to the beach. And we got on the topic of manifestation, and somebody asked me, what do I think manifestation is? Like, how do I define it? it came to me like a light bulb in that moment. I was like, it is your actions. Because if you look up the definition of manifest, it's just to make something apparent to the eye. It's very see it to believe it. And it's so funny because the branding around manifestation is very think it to believe it. But the definition of it in the dictionary is to make something obvious and observable through your actions. So it's
Hmm.
like, wait a minute. Like, how is this spiritual? And what I realized is we're getting lost in the sauce of all of the somatic and spiritual practices that we're doing to inform our actions. The reason why we're doing things like, meditating, breath work, yoga, working out, walking, sitting in silence, getting off social media, the reason why we're doing those things, journaling, is so that we can shift and unravel the beliefs that we had in our subconscious mind, because our subconscious mind drives all of our action. And if you don't believe me, how many times have you said, I'm going to work out, I'm going to go on a walk, and then you don't do it? Why? Because there is literally a belief, whether you're aware of it or not, probably not, that is informing everything that you do, every little thing that you do that you could take for granted. There's a belief behind that. And you could sit there and unravel until you get to the belief and you're like, oh, this is why I'm not doing that. It's not about discipline.
Hmm.
It's not about willpower at all. If it was, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's about your beliefs, and not the beliefs that you know about, the beliefs that you don't even know, that are literally informing every single thing about your choices. So once you examine your beliefs and you're like, hey, I'm not liking what's happening, I'm looking
Yeah.
at my actions, I'm not liking what's happening, because you're manifesting all the time. Like, you manifested this podcast, you manifested this set, like, you manifested that, right? Like, other
Hmm.
people don't have that, you have that, you manifested that. So if there's anything that you want to change, then you can get intentional with this process that happens with or without you. You can get intentional and you can say, okay, what is the belief behind the reason why, for example, in this conversation, why I feel uncomfortable asking for the sale? Like, what am I afraid of? And it might not be something basic like rejection, it might be something else. What
Oh,
am I afraid of?
I want to get into the sales conversation. Real, I really want to get into sales, but let's get to this question here. I think this is a really good question. We got kombucha here. She asked, let me get this thing. Oh, let me put it right here.
That's such a great name, I love that.
Yeah, she's awesome. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, this is not the question." Wait, hold on. Is that the question? Oh, I guess it is. I hear a lot of people say you can write this off on your taxes, but I have no idea how that works when you're a solo creator without a business.
Yes. So tax write offs are an interesting conversation. I just want to start off by saying that I'm not a tax accountant, but I do know the answer to this. So, first, if you are a solo creator, no matter what it is that you're doing, if your intention is to monetize it, you do have a business, right? What your business looks like might not be what someone else's business look like. Like, we see that everywhere. You're not Amazon, you're not some store on Etsy. You have your own model, and there's very different models. If you have the creator model, chances are your income is coming through things like partnerships with other brands, or it could be coming through a one to many offer, in the sense that you're selling prints or you're selling something that people can buy online. Some people create and sell directly to the consumer, if like you're a painter and you're literally making commissions. That's a business. So there are a certain category of tools, software expenses, your own salary, depending on how you set up your business, that are considered write offs, meaning that you don't get taxed on them. And that is something that I would discuss with your tax accountant to say, hey, this is my business model. These are all of my business expenses. What am I going to get taxed on? And how should I set up my business such that it's the most tax efficient?
Mm,
And this is really beneficial for you, right? It doesn't mean that you can just go on a retreat and you won't pay for that. It means
yeah.
that you won't get taxed on it. So you're paying for it for sure. But it means that depending on what that retreat means to your business, depending on what your business is and what they're covering at the retreat, it could be a tax write off. But that's something that you're going to have to clarify with your tax accountant that you probably
Mhm.
meet with annually or sometimes quarterly. And they'll say, these are the things that are tax write offs. Now, what I will say is, do not make the mistake. Here's a limiting belief that drives me bonkers, where people are unwilling to invite more money into their business because they don't want to pay the tax on them. I always say, put it like this: if I'm getting taxed at 50%, like just something egregious, if I'm getting taxed 50% because I make $1 million, I would much rather make $500,000 than not make
Yeah.
$500,000.
You're
Like,
right.
do the math. Do the math, right? So growth is growth. And at each level, there is going to be a mindset shift or a reality at that level that you need to embrace. And oftentimes the belief is that that's too complicated. That's too hard. Maybe we have old beliefs about ourselves from school. Maybe we were bad at math. Maybe we were, got shamed for bad grades. This isn't a grade and this isn't a
Mhm.
test, and you don't have to be good at math. You just have to be good at making decisions.
It's
There's
life.
a very different skill set. You have to be good at making decisions. So what is the gap to your next up level? Is it getting an LLC? Are you making
That's
more
a
than $65,000? Do you need an
that's
S
the
corp? Like,
Yeah, that's the next question I believe Kimbucha also asks about being a creator. When it comes to being a creator and finances, would either of you share how you handled business expenses when you first started out as a solo creator, maybe before you had a business?
I will say that I started the business right away because you don't want to mix business expenses and spending and what you're earning with your personal. It's not personal income fundamentally, and you want to create separation in what you're liable for. Forming a business entity is very affordable, very simple, and you don't need like a lawyer to do that. You can easily do that through the .gov of your state to form that entity, to find if it exists or not, all of that. I did that day one, even if I didn't know what the business was going to look like, because without that, you can't open an account. You can't, some
Yeah.
platforms and CRMs won't even let you have an account. Like, you can't get a Square account if you don't have a business entity. You can't receive money through, you can't go to Chase. And there's so many things that are a barrier because you don't have a legal entity established. So I actually did do that first.
I didn't do it first. I definitely was just trying to figure everything out, and it was more so of a what's the word I'm looking for? It was just a negative mindset or a fear or a limiting belief. Well, I can't turn photography into a business. I'm just gonna wait.
Mm.
I'll wait till I get this amount of money first, and then when that what ended up happening was there was a mix, like you said, of personal and business expense. When that started happening, I said, you know what? I have to create a business because this is getting too wishy washy, too mixy. And I created an entity with the .gov website, and I was able to separate personal and business. And ever since then, it's been great. I've had a little bit more structure Before I was a little bit more lackadaisical, and not too well informed. But more recently, I've been able to befriend a few people who have their own businesses, mentors, attend a few seminars with people like you, attend some on one-on-one Zoom calls with creators to give me a little bit more insight. So the knowledge is there. So you don't have to, and also don't worry about making a mistake. We all make mistakes. Just make
Yeah.
sure to course correct while you're about to hit against the wall. Just get out of there first. And even if you do hit the wall, there's ways to get out of that situation too.
I absolutely love that you brought up the conversation about mistakes because
Yeah.
I think kombucha, the fact that you are even asking that question lets me know that you know the next step, right? Usually, like what's top of mind for you is the next step for you, if that's what's circulating your mind right now. Because if it wasn't, it wouldn't even really be in your awareness. And so the best thing is to create the separation. That way, you know what your bandwidth is, right? So let's say you're like, I've never made even $100 in my business, and you charge someone $100 where you sold something for $100. Now you can take that $100 and manage it like a CEO. You're like, I can take 10% of this and get a domain. I can take 10% of this and invest in a newsletter so that I can build an email
Yeah.
list or whatever the case may be. I can take 20% of it and get a very basic mic so that my content is just like this much better. Whatever it
Yeah.
is, now you can manage it as if it were $1 million portfolio.
Yeah.
Like that's my favorite way to look at it is if I added a couple more zeros, would I spend half of this on a thing?
Yeah.
No, I would spend 20%, 10% on a thing.
Tanya says, for her, having a separate account for all business expense and income is ideal, and that's how I
Yes.
do it now. 100% new podcast equipment coming in. Um, she actually put me on to when companies send you free microphones, free gear, and you actually have to pay taxes on it because what the thing is, these companies they'll send you free equipment, but they're actually this is what tax deductible. They're giving it away, and we have to pay for it. That's something that she put me on to, and ever since then, I was like, oh, well, I'm probably going to say no to a lot more gear reviews because at the end of the day, as a creator, I'll be working for free for this free gear. It's interesting. She's actually one of the few people in my inner circle who is a creator and a business owner who I learn a lot from. So definitely, if you don't learn anything from today's live stream, learn that you should definitely get connected with Neysa or other creators who are also creating and are full-time creators. So you could definitely learn a lot from that. Let's see. We have some other questions here or comments.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm so
see.
glad we're getting comments.
Yeah. Oh, Elle is here. Hey, Elle. How's it going? What else we got here? Please share best practices when scheduling a guest. So
Hmm.
I guess we could be transparent here today. So I had text Neysa. We had conversation on the phone. She's in California, and I'm in South Florida. So you have different time zones, and I ended up sending her the time, which was 11:30 a.m. PST for her time, and 2:30 p.m. EST my time. For some odd reason, I decided to go into my email and text and email her a different time zone because I don't know. I have no idea why, but I text her 12:30. Was it 2:30? Oh, a different time zone, a different time for some odd reason. I don't know why. So best practices is try not to confuse yourself with different time zones. And also communicating is great. I personally love sending audio messages. I like texting. I like to say, hey, what do you want to talk about? What things do you want to highlight? What things you want to shout out? That way I can better serve the guest because I want to highlight her as a creator, as a business owner, as an individual, and bring her in front of you all. So that way, y'all could be aware of her and the things that she will be able to provide to you. So that's best practices for me. What about you?
I also think that having some systems and structure around how you do it. So,
Yeah.
something that Gil might not know is that I only ever do these kinds of things on Thursdays. Like,
Oh
anytime
wow.
I'm doing, like, even my sessions, I just like any kind of audience building, relationship building, connection calls, and I loop podcasts into that or live streams. I only do that on Thursdays. And it's like a really easy boundary because then I don't have to be like, what's my schedule? I could just be like, is it on a Thursday? Then I can do it.
Yeah.
And I dedicate that so that mentally I can show up fully versus if I do it on Monday, Tuesday, it's just like my schedule gets crazy really fast. It's just easy to say yes to stuff. Having something on Thursdays, there is a Thursday out of this month that it'll work. So allowing myself just that space makes it a lot easier, and having like a little form that they can fill out to get those questions, like what they want to talk about, headshots if you need it, anything that you need to prepare for that guest session. That way you don't have to go back and forth. You could just be like, hey,
Yeah.
here's this calendar link, book a session with me. It's already set up. Fill out this form. It's already set up. So make it easy for yourself. Otherwise, you'll have a full-time job tracking down guests.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I would also add to that.
Also, I'll also add one more thing. Attend conferences, attend events, make yourself known. Yeah, a lot of people do have success, contacting guests remotely via uh, tweets, social media, DMs. But I feel like once you are physically with the person or you're meeting that person, it's easy for you to like, hey, do you want to like do a podcast one of these days? You already met, so it's way easier. So look into joining an event. Um, let's see, we got some more comments here, both online and in person for podcast show. Yeah, yeah, we just answered that. Let's see what else we got here. Kombucha says, "Wow, I didn't know that about getting free things." Yeah, it it. Trust me, I've experienced it. I have an
Also, the
S.
thing with
Mhm.
just want
Oh,
to
please.
add with the free things is
Hmm.
like if you're not getting paid to do it and if it doesn't bring you more visibility to your business and more leads to your business, then it's a hard no. So
Yeah.
it's exciting to get free things, but just consider like what function it serves before you say yes to something.
Hmm. Most definitely. I got an S corp and I'm happy with it. Just know you'll pay 800 every year here in Los Angeles. Yeah, I heard the taxes in LA are pretty crazy. Wow, that's the info nugget we need more of. Thanks. I did not know about that about the free gear. Yeah, it's free. um it's free promo for the company. It's a win-win for them, but at the end of the day we have to pay for it. This is America. But this is America. Oh man.
The other thing I
So
want to say about that California tax or that Los Angeles tax is similarly to how people are like, I'm not going to do this thing because I don't want to pay the taxes for it. For me, I'm in Los Angeles because I'm the best version of myself here. And so when you think about the overall gains that I get physically being where I literally belong, where I connect with way more creatives, where I find my community, the potential for earnings there compared to being in a place where I felt a like resistance to,
mm,
that's going to cost me a lot more than that $800. So it's really shifting the mindset of like, what am I gaining by being in Los Angeles County? What am I gaining by choosing to operate in a city like this? And what are the ways that this city serves me instead of looking at that $800 tax bill? Because it's like, you can put together any package to make that $800 back.
Yeah.
But being in the community that I'm in here, being in this creative community has served me way more than the cost of $800. So that's just
Yeah.
something I want to say to anyone who lives in a high cost area or lives in an area that people regularly scoff at. If that's where you're supposed to be, you're benefiting from that monetarily for sure.
I second that. There, where I currently live, it's more so a. Do you know what a full Nelson is? It's like
No.
a chokehold. Metaphorically speaking, I currently live in a city where it's like a full Nelson on creativity, like full on
Mm.
suffocating. And there's a place that I frequent. It's about 15 miles away from me, and it's a nice area. And creativity is like in abundance, and networking is great as well. And in Miami, there's this small little area called Brickell, and it's almost like a Manhattan type of zone. And I've been there a couple times, and anytime I go there, I I literally leave with a bag of money, opportunities, network, potentials. I ended up getting a contract with a podcast. It was and it's super crazy amount for me at that time. I wasn't the best podcast producer, but because I had XYZ gear and I was in this particular location, I was just given opportunities after opportunity. And if I had moved there, if I would have sold my townhouse or rented it at the time and moved there, rent would have been like $3,000 a month. But at the same time, I'm getting that back with the work that I'm basically doing with my eyes closed. And it's something that I think about all the time. And it's, I don't know, what is it? It definitely is a fear mindset. I'm going to admit to that. But there's also this other word that I'm trying to think about. Um, can't think of it right now for some reason. But your location is everything. So if it's $800 taxes a year that I have to pay, and I can get a network of friends, creators, and just be free to breathe and express myself creatively, that 800 is nothing. And like you said, you can easily just create a package and have that pay for itself easily. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you really have to ask yourself like what am I gaining? What is this tax paying for? Like I saw this I'm on Threads, which is so much fun.
Yes,
And
it
I heard
is.
somebody say like I hate paying rent. And I thought that was so interesting because I was like, huh, I love paying my rent. Like, my rent is high, and I love paying it because I love my apartment. I love where I live. I love my neighborhood. I love what's in proximity to my neighborhood. And that's
Yes.
what I get. I get, in exchange for this value, I get to be somewhere that I absolutely enjoy and love and benefit from. So you have to
Yeah.
ask yourself if you believe that you're worth that investment.
I love that. Oh my gosh. That was amazing because if I were to I love where I live. There isn't that much creativity here, but again, I'm not too far from the places that I want to go, the places that I frequent. But I have friends who live in places again who just doesn't breed any type of creativity. And I ask myself, well, why did you move here? Oh, rent was cheap. But now you're complaining about lack of networking, lack of coffee shops. There's no coffee shops near me. There's nothing fun to do. But you're paying the low rent. How about you just pay that little extra, be able to go out to the bar, go out to the coffee shop, go out to these photography studios, these creative spaces, and go there anytime you want to. Step out of your home and then just create and network with other people. I think that's just amazing. And yeah, I don't think you could put a price on that. But I think we do because I'm gonna say this. This is a hot take. This is a hot take. I think I think I think creators or creative beings are just aliens, and regular average people are just they're amazing, they're great, but creators have this air about them, and if you're restricting yourself you will never be happy. So if you're continuously uh, being like everyone else, which is totally fine. But if you are called to be a creator and you are limiting yourself and living in this place that's super far away, not surrounding yourself with other creators, not going to conferences, podcast summits, podcast conferences, events, and you're basically saying, "Well, that's too expensive. I can't go. Oh, that's too far. I can't drive." You will you will never be happy. That's my hot take. Yeah, what do you think about
So
that?
we're so close, and then you get off at one exit before I do.
Hmm.
And what I view is that everyone is a creative.
Hmm.
Everyone is creating something. People who've chosen this life, this is what we share in common, is that we're willing to do the hard thing and go against the grain to live that creative life. Unlike people who've chosen, you know what, it's easier for me to fit in and blend in here.
Fit
And
in.
so that's where we differentiate from, I would say, the crowd. But the cost of being you is a high cost, because that means you're going to offend somebody. You're going to not please other people over here. That means you're going to say no to a lot of things that people expect you to say yes to. And that means that you're putting yourself first. And we're taught that that's a really negative thing to do. But the truth is that putting yourself first is the best thing that you could do for the collective, because you're showing up as your best. You're
Wow.
literally a better friend. You're a better father. You're a better brother, cousin, uncle, nephew. Like, you're a better son. Better, like, literally, you're better for everyone around you. And most importantly, you're better for your clients. You're creating more. So even if you are
Mm.
a broker that sells businesses to other investors, we're back to the same thing: building
Yeah.
relationships, having an active social life. Going, if I was a broker right now, I'd be hanging out in Martha's Vineyard, drinking wine and eating cheese until I find somebody who's like, I got an extra 500,000, I'm looking to buy something.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
same process, right?
Yeah.
You might be at a podcast conference over here. I might be doing something more specific to my industry, but either way, we're like little butterflies and we're
Yeah.
meant to be fully self expressed.
Yep. Let me get to this comment here. Comment about the cost of an S corp was only sharing. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I got you.
No,
We
I
got
brought
Joe.
that up because it's something that happens a lot. People say that a
Yeah,
lot.
and Joe says it's okay to pay for things that you find value in. I want to piggyback off of the Martha's Vineyard thing, and we could talk about sales. So
Yes.
a couple years ago, I got into cycling, like riding a bike, and it is a expensive hobby, I guess you can say,
Yeah.
but not really. As long as you, like Joe says, you find value in it, you can't put a price on that. I found myself cycling with a group of people, and it just so happened to be a specific set of people who were well connected, people who were organized, people who had structure, businesses, doctors, and I'm just having casual conversations. And hey, oh, you're Gil. That's awesome. But what do you do? "Oh, I produce podcasts. I do photography. Oh, cool. Well, I have a bar mitzvah coming up. Hey, I have this coming up. Do you build studios? Yeah, I build studios. Oh, cool. My aunt who runs this company needs help. Hey, I have a nonprofit. Can you come here?" And it just became a thing where riding my bike, doing something that I enjoy, propelled me and put me in rooms that I didn't know existed. And it's just one of those things where if I had that limiting belief where I'm not going to pay that much money for a bike, I'm not going to pay that much money for a helmet. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to join a bike club. Ew, no, that's lame. No, it's just like doing the thing that I really enjoy and not worrying about the price of it put me in situations where, like, hey, this is great. And let's talk about sales. Me buying a camera that is $2,500 and walking around with it showed to some people that, oh wow, this guy does photography, and whatever he says I will believe. And it's just one of those things where, oh, if he invests in himself, I'm going to invest in him. Wow, he has a podcast room. oh, well, if he's investing in his podcast room, I'm going to invest in him to build me my own podcast room. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you can't sell something that, not saying that you don't own it, but can you ever been to like a car lot and you're trying to buy a vehicle and it's a stick shift and the salesman doesn't even drive stick and he doesn't even own a car? How can he sell it to you? It doesn't, you can't. Mind you, he could be an enthusiast. He can really love it. Enthusiasts can sell things, but experience trumps everything. Like, oh yeah, it does great, but when you get to third gear and you're like under 4,000 RPM, you feel a little bit knocked. You wanna do it like this. Ooh, I would buy that car now because now I know that insight. Even though it might be a negative, I'm aware of it because that saleswoman or that salesman was able to explain it to me effectively. So let's talk about sales. Like, what is your, I wouldn't say tactic because that's like a negative, like you excited about sales, but what is your, what's like one strategy you have when it comes to like selling?
So I am obsessed with that story that you told about the cycling for a few reasons. One, that first of all, this is a perfect example of what it looks like to manifest. You're
Mm,
literally following your joy. You're literally putting yourself into places that light you up, that fill you up, and that you have value in, right? So there's so much alignment there. So that's where the action comes in. You chose, I'm going to do this hobby. I'm interested in this. I want to get into this. This is fun for me. That's where all your action came in. You're having conversations. You're not in the back being a loner. You're having conversations, connecting with people. That's another action step. Then they're asking you questions, they're putting you into context, and that's the serendipity. That's where that co-creative process comes in between the intentions that you're painting with your actions and the universe coming in and bringing opportunity. So it's literally the perfect example. Imagine living your entire life like that. Like
yeah.
literally no limit, right? So my philosophy on sales for service providers, and I consider service providers creators, right?
Mm,
You are working with clients. Your clients is probably a brand, or in the case like Gil, you're working with small businesses and you're building their studios, you're editing their podcasts, etc. It is all relationships. It is
mm,
all relationships. Yes, we do content on social for visibility. I might do a live with Gil here because we have this relationship. And so I get
yeah.
to be in front of another audience, right? So any opportunity in your business is probably, when you have this particular model, is going to come from a relationship. If I were to go on DMs and message Gil and say, hey, can I come on your live? He might ignore that. He'll probably ignore that. He'll be like, who is this girl talking about a triggering thing? No. But because I met him already, I put myself in an environment to meet him, to connect. We stayed connected. Then he was like, oh, like you said earlier, like, come on my live. Okay, great. That's an easy yes. And now I'm talking to a new audience. That's a part of my sales process. So it is relationships. You don't have to become a new person. You don't have to say things that you would never say. Just like that stick shift example, that guy is fully embodied, fully embodied in the fact that he drives stick shift. He knows all the gears, he knows all the gotchas. And that's what people are buying, that energy, that belief. And the same thing goes for sales. So you have to be selling something that you fully believe in and are embodied in.
Yep.
You have to be selling to a group of people that you fully respect. And when I say fully respect, I mean you don't feel bad for them. You don't think that you're going to save them. Without you, they won't make it. No, you have to
Mm,
believe that they'll make it without you because that mutual respect has to be there. Sales requires consent, sales requires connection and context. For example, Gil knew that I released a podcast episode. he knew what I was working on. There was a context there. We had the connection. We met at this conference. We had been texting and sharing each other resources. I had been sharing his info with other people with podcasts that talked about wanting a set. I was like, oh, get on this guy's email list. He has this amazing resource. Like, the connection was there. Then the consent happened. Hey, do you want to do this? And the answer is yes. Versus, had I had even met him at the podcast conference where we met, and he just immediately said, hey, I'm Gil, want to come live with me? I'd be like, no.
Like, who is this guy? Who
Who
is
is
this guy?
this guy? Like, what is this? You know what I mean? But because the connection, the context, and the consent were there, it's an easy yes. So that could be for something like joining a collaborative thing like what we're doing. It could have easily also had been for a package had I been his ideal client. It's the same process, whether you're selling free 99 or whether you're selling $1 million thing and we've got lawyers involved. It's the same process for relationship-based businesses. Most of us, if you're not selling Fenty Beauty, most of us have relationship-based businesses. If you don't have a physical product business, that's a very different conversation. But if you're a creator, you have a service business. You're working with brands, you're working with small businesses, you're working with other production companies, you're building things that other people want to pay for and buy. You're giving value. That's what you're selling.
Yep.
So that's why there's this divorce between what you do in a certain amount of time. That's why you have to divorce yourself from putting feelings behind price, because and you have to get out of your pocket and you have to get out of other people's pockets. You have to look at the value. What is the value that I'm providing? What is the impact that this is going to have? Those are the questions that you need to ask, because all of a sudden it might seem like a lot to you to say, oh, $1,000 would be a lot. If $1,000 is producing a result that could save or make someone $100,000, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's actually so low that it's not believable, right?
It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, price point is really going to come in when you go, what makes sense for my ideal client? What is needed here? What stage are they at in business? What is the value of them consuming the value that I have to offer? The price comes from that. So if that's a $200 thing, cool, but don't give them an arm and a leg and a spleen. Do something that makes sense at that price point. So I think creators, we want to give, and we're not looking at building a business. Yep. Like, where does my creativity, my talent, how does it fit into the business? What is the business model that is more conducive to the way that I'm personally designed? Are you the type of person that wants to create one thing and sell it once? Are you the type of person that wants to create a thing and sell it a bunch of times? Do you want to be paid for your ideas? Do you want to be paid for what you've completed and produced for someone? In the case of Gil having like a set, it's like, oh, he built a set. I can see it. He built it. Versus maybe strategy where you're paying to sit with him for an hour. Not that you're paying him by the hour, but you're paying him for the information he could deliver in an hour. That might be $1,000 call. What are you going to tell me in an hour that I can't find on Google and YouTube and whatever?
That's the crazy thing. And I also want to shout out Angel, famous Angel here. I actually met him when I did my first podcast workshop, and I had made an ad or posted it on Instagram, and he came. Well, I know you're in California, but he drove all the way. It wasn't too far, but he drove to me, and we weren't connected on social media. Now we are, and I was able to assist him at his podcast studio in Miami, all through me taking the chance on me and believing in myself and not having a limiting belief in what I can teach. And I said, I want to talk to people about podcasting. I want to talk about people about podcast production. He came. I met so many other wonderful people, and since then, he's given me so much opportunity. And it's because I took a chance on myself. He says very true. It reminds me of the your worth consists in what we are and not what we have. Thomas Edison. I have been paid the most from people that recognize the value. I'm telling you, like, I've had so much opportunity, and it's simply because I'm really passionate in the thing that I'm doing. I've gotten paid by so many people, and I did things I didn't really care about. And it's like, yeah, I've gotten this much money. It was great, but I didn't really care for it. And I love
Mm.
working with people who see the thing that I like to do, and they pay me for that. Like, I love consulting, I love teaching, I love building podcast sets. And when I sit down and somebody says, "I want to build a 3 4 person podcast," I was like, "Well, we can do 8 in here. Let's set up 3 different sets." And they're like, "No, I can only afford one set here." And I was like, "Well, you have all this real estate." And I said, "I know we agreed to this rate, but let's do this rate, and I can set you all up." And then they pay me for that. It's it's such a great feeling. Um, and my sales strategy is similar to yours. It's just basically all about relationships. It's all about being authentic, showing up online, and just creating and sharing with the people. I also rent gear, and that also is a sales strategy that I use a lot. Where, hey, what are you shooting? Oh, I'm doing a music video. Great. So you need a 50 millimeter and maybe a something in between, like a 16 to 35. No, all I need is a 50. Hey man, if you get the 16, sometimes artists like that funky stretch look, and they might need that. Oh, cool. Yeah, just throw it on for whatever amount. And that, I was able to empathize, understand the project or the scope of the project that this creator probably didn't really necessarily see. And it's I love it. I love sales.
Sales is fun. And I think something you said, as one of the comments was like about worth, right? Sales has nothing to do with our worth. Like we show up on this planet 100% worthy. So we have to realize we are not our business. There's us, fully worthy, fully embodied, and then there's our business, this entity that we're building, right? So separate yourself. So when we get a rejection, it's not a rejection to us, it's a rejection to this particular offer at that particular time for our business. All of a sudden, that the rejection's like this small. They're not saying no to
Mm.
you, you suck, you'll never make it. They're saying, oh, this offer over here is not the best thing for me right now. Right.
Yeah.
So understanding that there's that separation can really help you get past price objections. It can really help you get past just having the audacity and the courage to charge what you need to charge. And know that you're going to make mistakes. Like you're going to make mistakes. Anyone that's like, don't make my mistakes, red flag, red
Yeah.
flag. You're going to make mistakes. The best coaches, mentors, support people, whoever is in your life helps you to regulate so you can navigate the mistake and benefit from the mistake. There is
Yep.
a concept of failing up, and entrepreneurship is the process of failing up. So, really shifting your relationship with failure and shifting it to straight up data and taking that data and internalizing it and benefiting from it, all of a sudden you realize that you wouldn't have got to where you were if not for the failure. So, are they even failures at all if they're building your business? Right. So, that's another really important piece to keep in mind in the sales process.
Oh, this is awesome. And data is super important. I love collecting data on uh, my consultations, the clients, how I was able to feed them information, why that worked out, how far did they go, how many sessions did we do, why did he not continue in this path? And then that was early on in my consulting career, you can say I would give so much information, so much. And it wasn't necessarily an empathetic strategy. It was more so like, I'm just going to sit down. Oh, I got paid $100 just to sit down with somebody. Yay, me. Now I have this whole system and process where they go through, hey, what's the name of your YouTube channel, podcast? What's the thing that you want to do? What are the questions? What are some podcasters or YouTubers that you would like to be like? What is it? Audio quality that you're looking for, video quality? And I get to this laundry list. And one of my friends, she was just on here, the Cake Queen Tanya. She says she likes to do this because this deters time wasters. And this is something that I learned
Yes.
where creating a form, because if you just DM me, hey, what up, Gilly Gill? Hey man, I want to do a consultation about podcasting. Happens all the time. If they say hello, shockingly, not a lot of people say hello. They'll just say,
You
how much
just
for a
jump right
consultation?
in.
How much for a podcast? And I'm like, well, good evening to you too, sir, madam.
Right.
Hello. You know, so it's like I created this form. I'll just send them the form, and I use Squarespace 304 redirect with 301 redirect. So it's gildormis.com/forums, and I'm able to. That's like a website. I'll sling them to this form website. They fill it out, give me all the information that I need. They pay for the consultation, and then I get an email. Whoop. Oh, this is Jack's podcast. Jack wants to do XYZ. Jack would like to have his YouTube channel look like Peter McKinnon. Jack has 6,000 subscribers. Jack does this. Jack has this passive income in this. And I was like, now how can I put them all together and make it make sense? And then I'll speak to Jack. Hey, what's up, man? I see that you want to be not only a podcast producer, a podcaster, a DJ. That's not going to happen in one session. We can do this thing in one session. And then if you want to book another one, we can definitely do that. And I could work you to do this particular thing. And I noticed when I do things that way, when I be honest and upfront, I'm not going to be able to teach you how to be a DJ, make money on Spotify with DPS, whatever, Twitch live stream, podcast production, all that in an hour. I used to
Right.
lie to myself. I used to lie to myself and by proxy lie to my clients when I would tell them, yeah, 1 hour, we should be able to cover all that. The data and evidence with my client where it shows that's not physically possible. Like, and also I respect the people who sit down with me on a consultation. So they tell me they want to learn this, I'm going to do my due diligence and study that particular thing. If it's too much, I'll let them know, hey, right away, hey, this is just going to be a 2-day thing. Book another session. Let me know. We could go over this thing on this day. And the next day, we'll go over that thing. And then we can do a follow up where it's just a catch up 15-minute call where we can see where we're at. And if we want to book another session, we can do that. The data shows when I do that, everybody's happy. I'm happy. I'm less stressed. I'm less anxious. My wife is happy because, if I get stressed, the whole house gets annoyed. My dog is nervous, all it's not good for anybody. So, yeah, we
So
got another.
I really want to just take a moment and unravel that,
Yeah.
because here's what I love about that process. One, you're not a slave to your DMs. Because if you're
Mm,
answering every single DM and trying to be a consult in the DM, like you'll never create that balance of your whole life. So love that boundary. Two, there's a qualifying step. So this is literally Gil's sales process. There's a qualifying step of, if you are serious, these are the steps that you need to do. It could be a form, it could be something else.
yeah.
Whatever it is, here's something that qualifies you, so I know that you're serious. Whether or not we end up working together, I know that you're serious, because even if they don't work with you, you now have the information about them so that you can better serve your clients. You can better create content that's more relevant because they did qualify, even if they ended up going in a different direction.
Yeah.
Then you created this next step of like, we're going to do this kind of audit process, this strategy process, a next step thing where, no, I'm not going to solve this entire project in an hour, but you're going to walk away with the clarity on next steps. And now you upsell to the next offering that he has. That
Yeah.
is a beautiful example of what that flow could look like.
Yeah. Thank you. We got Angel saying systems are key for growth. So glad to hear you're
Yes.
implementing the Google Forms. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I took some of the examples from Angel, also from a couple other creators, but Angel has a podcast studio. It's literally turnkey. He doesn't have to physically be there. It's amazing. Like he can be out of the country, hire me as a podcast producer, and I'll just, all right, all the video, record. All right, video's in the drive, and he'll just be in Dubai or wherever he goes, and just, hey, thanks for doing the podcast, Gil. It's pretty awesome. It's some systems
That's
and processes,
incredible.
and having a team of people who are who understand the equipment. It's amazing.
That's
But
amazing.
I don't want to keep you too long. I know we were like past the hour, but can you give us some list of places that people can reach out to you and hit you up if they have any questions?
Yes. So, first place is my podcast. Keep it in the group chat. That podcast is available on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, and on YouTube. And so, Keep It in the Group Chat is where I have deeper conversations just like this about money mindset, sales, and the energetics of money and your relationship with money. You can reach out to me at Neysa Creates on Instagram. And I did want to share that in the month of September, I'm hosting a sales challenge. Gil is in the challenge. We've got a really great group of people together, very different backgrounds, all service providers and creators with the goal of making more money. And this challenge is going to be easy to follow, super valuable, and take just minutes a day. So if you want to join that challenge, you can go ahead and join the Facebook group Sacred Money. And you can join that group, and that's where you'll get all of the information about the challenge. And it's free. So it's going to be awesome. We're going to make money together, and I can't wait.
That's awesome. We got one more question, an
Yes.
important question, super important
Ooh.
question. What plant do you have behind you?
So this is Birds of Paradise. Funny enough, the secondhand scene in LA is bonkers, and people are constantly moving in and out. And we found this by the dumpster. Someone was literally going to just toss it away, and it's about my height. I'm 5'3", and it's insane. So we literally took my skateboard and like propped it on the skateboard and wheeled it into the house. It was so heavy. And we kind of had to nurse it back to health a little bit, but it's been going strong. I think we've had it for like
it's a
6 months now.
it's a vibe. It's a vibe. I was looking at the whole time like, wow, that looks great. So I'm happy Elle asked that question. I was like, whoa. I don't know anything about plants, but I love your setup.
Thank you. I
A lot of
appreciate
great
that.
information. No, thanks for tuning in, Elle. That's awesome. Thanks for your comment. Joe says lots of good information here. Thank you.
Yay. I'm
All
so
right,
glad it was
y'all.
helpful.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Neysa, thank you. We definitely be in touch. And y'all, please join the challenge. I'll put a link to everything. Let me do that now. I'll put a link actually after the video is uploaded. I'll put a link in the description to the Facebook group, Nisa's podcast, and her Instagrams. So yeah. Oh, what Elle said? What's that? Skateboarding Birds of Paradise. That sounds like a band or music group.
It's
And
such a
and
vibe.
on to the stage, please welcome Skateboarding Birds of Paradise.
If I ever drop merch, Elle will be the only person who knows the inside joke.
Yeah, yeah, that would be dope. That would be amazing. All right, y'all. Thank you. All right,
Bye,
bye.
everybody.